growing weary of running from room to room, practicing one-tooth insurance-driven dentistry? Then stay tuned for the latest episode of The Lionhearted, where Dr. DrRasner will hand you the blueprint for what many call the gold standard of general practice dentistry.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. DrRasner, and you've tuned in to The Lionhearted. This week I want to address your end of the year to-do list that you have to do right now over the next week or so. And the reason I'm covering that is because I'm speaking to you in about mid-November. And if you really want to get things done, if you really want to segue smoothly into 2020, instead of starting to get it together by March or April of 2020, you have to prepare now. So I've got 3 things I'm going to want you to look at that I think can be very helpful to you with the financial decisions you might make in 2020, to your cash flow in your office, and thirdly, your future, which will be the type of courses I would want you to think about taking. And I'm going to be very specific in tonight's podcast. Those of you that want to reach out to me, can do so at my email. It's DrRasner@AOL.com. That's my personal email. I welcome your emails, and many of you continue to do that, which is a sign to me that you're listening. And you can also look on RasnerInstitute.com for courses I'll be giving in 2020 in my office and on the road. So that being aside, let's talk about what I would do. And my first thing that I would do concerns your bookkeeping. And here's what I would do if I was you. Unless you have a practice that's grossing $300,000 or $400,000 that maybe you just started in the last couple of years, and you are completely on top of every number, which I don't think would apply to most of you, I would tell you to assume that your bookkeeping is wrong. Yes, that's correct. I would tell you to do a vetting of your bookkeeping. I constantly try to improve the quality of my organization, my dental office. And I think of areas that I'm weak in. And it's, that's a very important factor in your development as a young dentist, or in the development of your career, to be able to look in the mirror and admit where you need to be better. And I don't think it's unique to me that if your practice is a practice that's achieved higher numbers for years, like over the $1 million production mark, it can become very easy to become complacent and accept a lot of things. And I'm going to give you specific examples in a moment that I hope will convince you to take a different look at things. So when I say bookkeeping to you, I'm talking about whatever numbers you're given that tell you everything from the money in your bank account, unless you've checked that personally, to your production numbers of your office, every facet that's got a number attached to your office. And, I wanted to step up my game, and I hired a company, and they're out there. And if you want the name of this company, and I don't even know if they'll take new clients. So nothing I'm going to say tonight has anything to do, as it ever does, with a personal agenda of mine. My agenda is simply to help you. So if you want the name of the one company I'm trying, I got to tell you something. It's pretty impressive. You have to have the complete trust in this person that's going to be doing this for you. And they have access to your bank accounts, to just everything you do. And I think unless it's a family member, and a family member that is talented with accounting and bookkeeping skills, like maybe they don't even know what you're supposed to include or not include to be able to provide you numbers. Wouldn't you like to sit down monthly, because that's what I do, with a FaceTime computer review for 1 hour of all my numbers, what my hygiene percentage was, what I paid my labs, what I paid for supplies and comparing month by month. And it can be shocking. Like, I just had a month where I thought I had an outstanding month, and I did, according to the numbers that we produced and collected. But I have to tell you, a lot of the numbers were out of whack. Like, the net was not nearly as high as it should have been, as it had been in other months. And it brings my attention. Let me give you one example. I have an associate office. So I have two offices, in case I've never made that clear. And that started about 10 years ago. And quite honestly, I worry about that office at times. It kind of meanders a little bit up, a little bit down, nothing dramatic over the course of each year. It certainly is not nearly as productive as my office. And some of the employees had come to me and wanted an increase in compensation. And I have to tell you the truth that over that year, the year that we're in right now, 2019, the office has performed a little bit better. But in the particular month that they were requesting me to review their compensation, I found out that I lost. I didn't know that I lost $10,000. So it cost me $10,000 to operate that office that particular month. I just can't tell you how helpful, how liberating, how much more security I feel when I have an outside person look with no agenda. And this person is very experienced in the dental profession. So if you can find somebody like that in your own community, then I would use them. But I would really implore those of you listening that are about to open an office, or you have it in your plans in the future, trying to remember this concept, because you can make really bad financial decisions that lock you in. And while we're at it, it just resonates another thought to me that I want to convey to you. And I know staff listen to this, and I don't feel funny telling the doctors or you what I really believe, even if it seems like it favors the doctors at times. But I would highly encourage, instead of locking yourself into raises, when an employee comes to you and asks for a raise, I would highly, unless they're clearly underpaid for the job role they have in your office. If it's a hygienist and every hygienist in town is making several dollars more for what they're doing per week, and you want to keep that hygienist, and they have performed well, and it's a person you want on your team, then naturally you should address that. But just to address something because you had a good month or a good 6 months, I'd much rather you think about a bonus, on the spot type of bonus based on the past whatever months that we're talking about, than you getting locked into a raise. Again, unless that raise is clearly warranted because they're underpaid in your particular office for that job role. I'm telling you that in my career of 39 years, I've had devastating news twice in my career about the reality of my books. And one time it was clearly embezzlement, and the other time I couldn't prove it, but it was a 6-figure difference. Do you hear what I just said? I thought I had 6 figures more in my bank account than I actually had. So, the ride up is a beautiful ride. I would tell you to be vigilant about the numbers. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is investigate it. The next thing that's tied closely to that, and very important to many of you out there who take insurance, is how often, I have to ask you, do you vet the insurance department's protocols? And for example, so this is what I'm really trying to tell you. If you walked in your office tomorrow, Monday, would you be able to have somebody hand you a report that was clear and concise, easy to read, that would show your insurance aging report? In other words, payments not received over 90 days, over 120 days, over 6 months, over 9 months. We all know that are listening that in the United States that take insurance, that if it's over a year, a lot of insurance companies, most, have policies built in that they don't have to pay you. We also know from ex-insurance employees that they actually train their staff members, at least some insurance companies do, to delay the payment to you. And I've talked about it on prior podcasts. It's called dirty information or dirty data. And dirty data could be the wrong policy number, the wrong social security number, birth date, such and such. And there are ways for you to address this. If you're doing, $500,000 or more a year, and a lot of that is insurance, then you cannot afford to wait every couple years to be on top of the insurance department. I had to bring somebody in about a year ago that I hired temporarily for 6 months. And their only duty was to give me clean data every day. They work remotely, by the way, in my particular case, from home. It was a person with experience. And what they did is every patient in the schedule for 6 months, they went through their data. I mean, it was laborious. It was epic. And it really was worth it. And now what we've done, once we cleaned that project up, we brought it in-house and we do it daily now. So in the beginning, it's a big, you have to look. Here's what you do. You go back and ask for an aging report. You need to know the numbers. What is your aging report going to show you that's 9 months that you did the work 9 months ago that you haven't been paid for yet? Do you really know that information? I mean, listen, guys, this is a beautiful profession to choose, and it requires a lot of attention to detail. I don't know how else to put it. But if you don't do what I'm telling you to do, you can get intoxicated by the increase of cash flow and really think you're doing better than you are, or not. You could be doing way better if you're willing to put out just a little more betting on the systems that you have in place. And I don't think you can just go to the people or in place right now. It's like having the police the police. Pardon the awkwardness with those words, but that's what it's like. So sometimes you have to get somebody from the outside to do this as well. And let me ask you this question. Do you really understand the billing department of your particular office? And what I mean by that is, if you went to your billing department and said, how do we bill? And their answer was, well, we divide the alphabet or the patient base into 4 different groups, A through F, G through, whatever the next letters. And we bill them per week like that. That's what my office has done. My question to you is, do you have a firm policy for what do you do when they don't pay? And do you have a tracking system for those balances to slip through? There is so much waste and unpaid services in so many of the offices around the United States or any place that takes insurance that I think it can be incredibly hurtful to your bottom line. So I don't think you should need me to make a stronger argument than I've just made for how critical it is. And you really can't wait on this stuff. You need to get something in place right now because it's not going to happen in the next week or two. You're going to have to interview different companies or take my advice for some of the companies that I've used. If you ask me, and no one's ever asked me this when I've put it out there, look, think about why I'm telling you this. I'm trying to give you the weak links that I have found personally in my career, the hundreds and thousands of dollars that should have been mine that were wasted. And you might ask, well, how can that happen? Because if you get to a point and do all the other things I've been telling you to do, your productivity is going to increase significantly. Your cash flow is going to increase significantly. And it becomes very easy, pardon the expression, to get fat and to get lazy and not pay attention to all the detail. Listen, I advocate that you create a special niche of a dental practice, whatever community that you're in right now, and to do that requires a lot. That's what I advocate. Independent dentistry, fee for service, some insurance if you must. And I understand that part of the equation can take a long time to eliminate. I understand that. And to do that, you can't afford to not collect the money on services that you have provided. I think that should be pretty patent in terms of your understanding of why you need to do this. And then the next thing that you have to do in 2019 that's going to affect you in 2020 is you need to think right now, just like I am, of the courses and the training I'm going to commit to. And you have to start vetting that right now. And I got pretty specific for some of you because that's probably one of the biggest questions I'm asked from emails. What courses do you think I should take? And I'm going to be very specific. I still believe if it's available to you wherever you're listening from, that the Spear courses in Phoenix, Arizona offer a tremendous outline for you to break down and take little by little. I took those courses years ago, most of the ones that are offered now, in Frank's office, and I took a lot of them with John Coyes when they were together. But I looked at the list even today, and it's pretty impressive, and there's different kinds of courses he offers. One of the courses are seminars. I believe they're 2 days. They range from 1,700 in that vicinity. And I believe there's 8 different seminars on the worn dentition, restorative materials, the facially generated treatment plan. And what I would do, if you've never taken this, and this is the beginning of this part of your journey, first of all, I would take 2-day courses. It's ironic that I tell you that because a lot of my courses are 1 day, not in my office. They're 2 days. And when I'm on the road training and teaching surgery, they are 2 days as well. But it's really hard, from my experience, to have a great impact on you and changing the vibe of your practice often by just taking a 1-day course. So I like his 2-day courses. And he has workshops that are 3 days. And that's exactly how he had it in the 90s when I went through the program. Now, they're a much larger commitment. The workshops are 3 days. They're hands-on. And they can cost, from my brief perusal today, anywhere from $5,000 and up. So obviously, most of us can't take a bunch of those type of courses. What I would do is I would probably start working through the seminar, the 2-day courses. And I would start probably with, I wouldn't start with the worn dentition. I mean, that would be a course I would take early on. But I'd probably start with the facially generated treatment plan, and I would start with restorative materials. And I probably, if you could afford to do that, I would begin taking at least 2 of those a year. That's that part of your training. I would also say to myself, well, what is it else I want to be good at? And you've heard me talk ad nauseum about the triad that I think is important. And that triad, or it's actually it's 4 parts now. It's getting an oral sedation permit, atraumatic extractions, grafting, and surgical implant training. There are the 4. Okay, so one more time. Getting your sedation permit in your state or country, atraumatic extractions, meaning really how do you take teeth out in 2020? What's the most atraumatic to the tissue and surrounding bone? And trust me, there are real techniques that make a difference. And by the way, I teach some of them live in my office. I don't care where you take them. You need to take them. Unless you don't have any interest in that aspect of dentistry. And then right next to that, you must know how to graft. And that, taking the teeth out, you will master more quickly because those principles don't change as much as learning to site graft. And if you can do all those things, for goodness sakes, I don't know why you wouldn't learn to train in surgical and, of course, prosthetic implant dentistry. If you did those, and I know many of you do, you would be set. But you don't only have to do that. I think it's important that you become great at endo. The treatment of endodontics has become miraculously simplified for most of us. They just didn't have all the ancillary equipment, from apex finders to rotary instruments and the amazing training that's out there today. I mean, I'm actually going to take one because I got out of endo for 10 years until I accidentally discovered, it's a long story, how easy it was, or how much easier than it used to be. So what I wouldn't do is I would not go out, and I think a lot of you do this, I would not go out and focus on, I don't know how to put this, I wouldn't go out and focus on right away on sleep apnea. And that's not me underestimating the importance of that in our profession. You got to get the basics down. And there's just so many different paths now to specific type of dentistry, unless that just fascinates you. If that's what it does for you, then of course, chase that dream, chase that interest for yourself. But if it was me, I would invest and I would make a 5-year plan. And it's exciting when you do this, guys. It doesn't matter, like you might be saying, oh my God, 5 years. No, you get better right away. You get better with the first course. And it's exciting to come back to your office. Let me just tell you one more thing that it took me years to learn. Whenever you schedule one of these courses, and when I say schedule them, this is how that works for me. I've already done this, by the way, for 2020. I can tell you right now, I'm taking a March course with Picos down in Tampa, Florida. And it's on, he's bringing in a guest speaker that has a way to graft without flapping. And I don't really know the details, but it's certainly intriguing. He's from Europe, and I want to see what it's about. When I tell you I'm signed up for it, I'm not just signed up for it. I paid for it. I have a flight for that. I have my hotel because I know I won't cancel. And that came from years of me taking courses. And if I was having a bad week or a bad month, I would cancel. So when I say prepare, the first part of the preparation, and I did this, it took me weeks to home in on what I really wanted to take. Initially, I was going to take some courses in Europe because I've never done that. But they were like Tuesday through Fridays, and I just felt that was too encumbering to my practice to do that. And so I chose not to do that. I ended up doing what I just told you I did. But there's others that I'm looking at. I am signed up for a 1-day endo course, hands-on, because I think you can do that at times with endo, certainly if you've had experience. So, and then the other thing I would tell you to look at, and maybe you don't know where to start, is an implant continuum. And there's so many available continuums for you to choose from. I might tell you to take and start Guide, G-I-D-E. And by the way, Pico's Guide, Spear, they don't even know that I'm talking to you about them. I hope you understand that. This is just me trying to communicate with one of my colleagues. But I don't think I've ever sent anybody on a course that they came back and said me, well, that was a waste of my time. By the way, Bill Strupp in Clearwater, Florida, and Michael Brom, look them up. They have a good, nice 2-day restorative course on materials and preps and their approach. And Bill Strupp actually did my teeth many, many years ago. My posterior molars are crowned. And his protocols, I can tell you, he uses exactly what he says he does. And his associate, Mike Brom, who's been there for, I may be saying his name wrong. I apologize, Mike, if I am, is superb as well. So there's just the takeaway. I gave you Spear, the Spear Institute, Bill Strupp, a rotary endo course, to begin your journey. And Guide, Gide, I believe they have a 5-day program in California, Los Angeles, on implants. And then if you feel like that is your passion, then perhaps the next step is a maxi course, and we could talk about that, or you could write to me about that, because there's multiple maxi courses across the United States. So the purpose and the takeaway of tonight's podcast was to get you thinking like I think. Next year will be my 40th year in dentistry. It's hard for me to believe. Guys, if I had to do operative dentistry, just operative dentistry, I would have never made it 40 years. It wouldn't work for me. And I'm here to tell you that I mapped out my year for years, and I still do it, as you can hear. When that March course comes around and I'm prepared for that course, it won't matter to me if I didn't have a great week. I hope I have a good week that week or the week before. But I'm prepared for it. I'm paid for it. The office knows I'm off. Maybe some of the people are taking their vacations that week. And to be quite honest, for me, it works 6 months in advance. If I go further than that, it just doesn't fit my lifestyle. So that's how I run. That's how I deal with it. Don't forget, don't overlook your bookkeeping. Don't overlook your insurance department and your billing department. These are all ways to undermine the hard work that you do all year. I hope this helped everyone. I look forward to meeting some of you in 2020. And have a great week, and I'll see you next week on The Lionhearted.